What's up, bookworms? This is Megan coming at you with another Cantina conversation. Today's episode features a chat with Sally Chaffin Brooks. We're talking about her book, Going to Maine, All the Ways to Fall on the Appalachian Trail. That book is available now. Such a fun conversation with Sally. Such like it's engaging. I loved hearing about her crazy experience and doing the whole 2,200 miles from Maine to Georgia hiking and the experiences and what she taught. She's so authentic, and some of it was relatable just because I've done the Chicago Marathon, so we were able to chat about that for a bit. And so it was. I think that you guys, anybody who's hiked or know all the crazy physical experiences that us human beings tend to do, I think you guys will really like this one. Without further ado, here is Sally. Today we've got Sally Chaffin Brooks. We're talking about Going to Maine, All the Ways to Fall on the Appalachian Trail. That book is available now. Sally, thanks for meeting with me today. I'm sure you checked out the review. Absolutely loved it. I don't know, with memoirs or any like nonfiction stuff, you never know what you're gonna get. And
Yeah.
I was so invested in your story. It was such an adventure, and the emotional points and the crazy points and just like all the just an emotional roller coaster, but also just like such a life changing experience for you. And it was written really well. So I'm excited to dig a little bit deeper today.
Thank you. I thank you. And it's my book is fairly newly out, like just over a month. And so I will never tire of the fact that like people are reading
Hmm.
it. Like that blows my mind that people are reading it and that I feel like what I wanted to what I wanted to convey is being conveyed because I'm like it was a fun adventure and I wanted that to be a fun read. So I'm glad that came across. And thank you so much for
Yeah,
reading
it's
it.
absolutely. I didn't know what to expect, but then it was just like, no, I became invested in your journey.
You're like, oh my God, how long are we going to hike today? We got to make it.
Yeah, yeah, like because like in the chapters, you start off with like how much time you have left, or
Yeah.
like how many miles you have left, and like at what the date and all that. And so I remember getting towards the end, I was like, "Oh my god, they only have 18 miles left."
Isn't that wild? It's like, when did
I
this
was like, "Oh
happen?
my gosh." Yeah. Yeah, so at that point, I was like, "Oh my god, you guys are almost
Yeah.
there." And it was just it was so wild. I can't I You and the whole like Appalachian Trail hiking community out there are crazy. And but it's
Yeah.
I imagine it was just the experience of a lifetime.
Obviously, like it's 20 years later and I'm still talking about it. So, yes. Yes, for sure.
I know, you're like, "I gotta talk about it. I
I
gotta
was
do this.
like,
I
I
gotta
need an
tell it."
excuse. People are not asking me about it anymore. Like, they're not acting like I'm cool because I hiked the H. How do I get it
Yeah.
back on the front of mind?
That's hilarious. I love
Great
it. It
book.
reminds me of there's like a running joke with people who run marathons. It's like they'll tell you that they ran a
Mhm.
marathon. So it's like kind of what it reminds me of. It's just no, like this is a big deal, okay? Like
Guys, and I'm gonna make you read every mile with me.
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, can you give a little summary of the book so that people can follow along with the conversation?
Yeah, sure. So it's a memoir about my through hike of the Appalachian Trail, which is a hiking trail that starts in Georgia and goes to Maine. You can do it either way. We went from Georgia to Maine, and happened in 2003 with my best friend Erin, who I is my childhood best friend, and she came to me and was like, "Hey, I'm going to go hike," and I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm coming with you." And she didn't ask me. She wasn't like, "Hey, do you want to come hike with me?" I was like, "Yeah, me too. I'm going to do that as well." And so it is the story of our through hiking. I was at the time, I think like a lot of 25-year-olds are, I was a little lost. I was not quite sure myself. I was trying to figure out like, could I become this person that I wanted to be and didn't see myself as? And so this book is that journey, as well as I call it that it's a beach read because I think it's a quick, easy read, but it is a lot of that. It's the coming of age story. It's a buddy comedy, and then there's a love story in there.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I know. We're gonna get into it. I might be all over the place too, but we're gonna get into
Yeah.
it. Can you get started with like your background and what? Because like I know that you're like a comedian,
Mhm.
and so I might want to explore any previous like experiences from either your professional or personal life that might have helped you or prepared you unknowingly for starting this project and bringing your story out into the world.
I think one thing I've been writing this for a very long time. Like, I started it as
Okay.
a blog. Do you remember when you
Okay,
remember
yeah.
back when everybody had blogs? I had one
Yeah.
in 2009. It was very cool. I had, like, tens of followers. But I
Yeah.
started writing it as episodic, just, hey, I had it was very fresh, it was new in my mind, and so I just started writing it a little bit at a time and then put it away. Like, I was like and then every couple years, I would come back and maybe write another chapter, and it really was just, like, a fun escape project for me. It was like I was doing a craft. And then I really got serious about maybe a couple like around the pandemic got serious about writing. Um and I think I'm glad that this was the point that I wrote it rather than right after it happened because I
Mm.
think that now I have a perspective on that journey that I took and
Oh,
I can
yeah.
actually see how it has affected my every aspect of my life after that. Not just that I married someone coming off of it, but that I like that doing the really hard thing that I didn't think I could do and finding that, as cheesy as it sounds, that inner strength in myself just gave me the confidence to do things like go be a stand-up comedian,
Mm.
quit being a lawyer and go be a stand-up comedian. And then also like having the audacity to be like, yeah, I can write a book. Like
Yeah,
I didn't, nobody was like, hey, we want you to write this book. I just was like, yeah, I'm going to do this and I'm
sure.
going to submit it and see what happens. And so I think just that I could now see the perspective and I feel like I have a better grasp on what it actually meant than I
Mhm.
did before.
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense because I was wondering, okay, like this, you're writing about an experience from 20 years ago. I was like, how do you dig into those memories and make it feel like it was just last month or it
Yeah.
was just too much so fresh in your mind where you can get because you explain your feelings and your emotions and what you were thinking and even just when you hit the emotional the high points and the low points where you're like straight up like my legs can probably move but I don't like you just started crying out of nowhere
Oh yeah.
and it's just so like just the stress and the emotional and physical turmoil it all like mixes together. I imagine 20 years later it's so hard to capture that, so that makes sense that I was wondering about that. That makes sense that you were like, no, I'm gonna record this while I can because I
Yeah.
imagine that was also a way for you to a little therapeutic
Yes.
for you at the time.
And I've had really great journals. That's the
Hmm.
key to like those it because even if the writing in the journals, it was not great. I was like the first time I met the guy who became my husband, I won't say his name, but because then it'll become very obvious in the book. But this isn't a spoiler because the first scene of the book is us getting married. But I when I first met him, I described him as a chill, cool hottie. So that's where my writing level was then. When I go back and look at those journals, I'm like transported back. And it is amazing how that works. And I really kept very good details and Erin did as well. My best friend did as well. And the fact that she's still my best friend and I can be like, "Hey, do you remember this day?" And we're still good friends with a lot of the people we hiked with. So that was like where I was missing that context, then I could fill in with their details. But the emotional stuff, I'm like, it was all there. And it's hard to forget, honestly.
Yeah, because I'm just thinking, I don't know, because I was like, throughout reading your book, I was like, man, I don't know, maybe, yeah, I'm 37 now, and I
Mhm.
did run the Chicago Marathon twice. So I'm like, man, maybe 27-year-old Megan might entertain the idea of maybe a month-long hike. I don't know
Uh-huh.
about 5 months. I don't know about that, but that like, back then, that might have been something like, "Oh, man, like, I that's a challenge, and I think I can do it. I can
Yeah.
do it." Because now I'm thinking, like, I got 2 little boys. I'm like, I'm not it's like 10 plus years of, whatever, just aging and health and all, like, I try to have a good, like, workout routine, but still, it's you do what you can. And I'm thinking like, "Oh, no, I don't think I would my hips and my knees would never forgive me if I did a 3rd marathon." And
Oh,
I'm, like,
yeah.
I'm thinking that now, man, I don't think I would have it. 37-year-old Megan, no, it just wouldn't. So I can that just brought me back of to just the mentality of it, and then just really just like, it's a mental game as much as it is physical,
Yes.
and just overcoming that and just, like, that psyche. Because now I bet in retrospect, you're like, "Yeah, I did it. I could take on the fucking world now."
Yeah.
You're like, "I could do anything," and then but at the time, it's hard to have that mentality. It's hard to be like, "God, we still have 1,800 miles to go."
And don't you think maybe this I don't know if this is true, but your second marathon was like you had less doubt in yourself because you were like,
Oh,
I
yeah.
know I can do this because I've done it. And that is
Ex
what the trail gave me, is like that, a bit of like swagger, because I'm
Yeah,
like, I did not think I could do it. I wanted to quit a lot, but I did it. And so that makes me feel like the next thing, I know I can do it because I've done it, that kind of thing. So that I think is what, yes, but going into it, you don't know that. So
yeah,
it was like every new mileage, like that we hadn't
yeah,
done like a 20-mile day, and then that seemed, oh, I don't,
yeah,
what if I can't do it, what if I like I fail and then I let everybody down, or what if I can't hike up this tall mountain.
yeah,
And then eventually you get to a point where you're just like in such good shape that you can do anything. And that is
absolutely.
something that was a very discreet part of my life, because that is not really how I live my everyday.
Or
And
yeah,
pretty amazing feeling to just be like, oh yeah, I could hike 40 miles today, no problem. And it's
that's
whatever.
crazy.
But
It's crazy to me.
yeah, it was a very, but also before I hiked the trail, also trained for the Chicago Marathon, hurt my knee, and coming into hiking, I was very out of shape because I had hurt my
Yeah,
IT band and my knee, and so I wasn't able to. I was like on my 20-mile run and then had to
yeah.
quit, and it was like so
God, that's
heartbreaking.
so yeah,
Yeah, it was.
yeah.
And so I just, but I still have that like block, like I probably couldn't do a marathon because I've never done it.
Yeah, it's so funny because even though it's one day,
Yeah.
it's, like, still 4 or 5 months of
Oh,
training
it
and
is.
where you're building up your mileage, and it's a commitment because it's like, yeah, there's the prep and, like, the recovery too
Well, and
every time.
yeah, and I think about it, I was 24 when I was training, and no kid, no, not had a boyfriend, but he lived somewhere else. It's like all I had was time. It was a
Yeah,
lot. It was like giving up your
yeah.
Saturday mornings and doing all this. And so I totally understand what you mean. I can't imagine taking the time to do even a week-long hike now, because I have a kid and a job
Yeah,
and
or
a
make him come with you. That sounds more work than it's worth it.
None of it. He's 8. No, and he's a
Okay.
pandemic kid, you know what I mean? Like, he's an indoor kitty. We're not we are
Yeah,
dragging
yeah.
him up mountains, like, at this point,
Yeah,
yeah.
oh my gosh, it's like you already have a 35 pound pack on you, and then, like, you have to risk maybe having another 50 or 60-pound luggage
Yeah, yeah,
attached to you.
yeah.
It's yeah,
Mm-mm.
absolutely. It's like, just put him on wheels and just drag him up.
And that has happened. That has happened for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, yeah, 'cause it's so fun yeah, 'cause I remember yeah, so, like, I did the first marathon, but then I signed up for the second one. I think I just did it for the lot I just entered the lottery too. I was like,
Oh,
"If I get
yeah.
picked, then it's on." And then the second time around, I got picked again, but then I found out I was pregnant with the first kid.
Hmm.
Cause yeah, the first one, I didn't have a kid, and I was like so that was, like, fine. The second one, I was, like, pregnant, and I was like, I can't do it. Is there any
Yeah.
way for me to I think it was like an entry fee that I had already
Mm.
paid, and I was like, "Can I get it back?" They're like, "No, we're happy for you, but no, we can't do that.
Yeah.
We could postpone your entry." And so I guess I was, like, arguably still in, like, postpartum as a year, less than a year when I did the second one, so I was, like, training, and yeah, it was rough, and I still didn't like, my body didn't bounce back right away, so
Yeah.
there was definitely, like, the difference in between the 2 marathons, but even then, I was still, I I had the support and stuff, and I
Mhm.
see videos of, like, my cousins recording me when I'm, like, running up to them and
Yeah.
stuff, and I'm like, "No, okay, I'm still trucking along." I'm like, I see it, like, I see it, like, I'm not fast, I go at a pace where I can go forever,
Yeah.
but I know it and it's a commitment for, like, your significant other too, whoever is, like, for your support team, it's a lot like, "Okay, I have to train at least 3 or 4 days a week, and my
Yeah.
long runs are on the weekends. I'm gonna be gone for 2, 3 hours at a time." In the morning, so it's all you, buddy. Thank you, Godspeed.
Yeah,
I'll see
yeah.
you, like, at noon. Like
But what a
and then
great, like,
aside from
for a new mom, what a great built-in escape plan. I'm literally
mm,
running. I
yeah,
can't be you can't get a hold of me. I
no, yeah. It's I'm just
So, yeah.
carving that time out,
Yes, that's
and it's consistent, and yeah, because right now I'm like yeah, I don't think I the most I do is, like, maybe 8 miles at a time, but even
mm,
then, it's if I have the time for it.
yeah, yeah,
It's if
yeah.
I have the time. Okay, I could squeeze in a 5K, and now I get my 7-year-old to do it with me. It's really like, I do we've signed like, through his school, they've done a couple 5Ks, and so I'm like,
Yeah,
"Do you wanna do it?" And I think he hears them hyping it up at school, so he's, "Yeah, are you sure?"
it's
It's 3
awesome.
miles, honey. It's 3 miles. Do you know what that
Yeah,
is? Exactly, and especially it depends on the weather, because I don't even know. Even in May, you never know what weather you're gonna get. So it's
Are you in
I
Chicago?
yeah, I'm a
Yeah.
suburb of
Mhm.
Chicago, so
Yeah,
yeah, but it's just that same unpredictable weather. 8
yeah.
months out of the year, you don't really it could go either way. But yeah, it's fun now where I'm like, it's really funny, like, the couple 5Ks I've done with him, we didn't really train much, but he had the energy and stuff, and I remember towards, the last half mile, I'm like, he's, in front of me.
Like
He's a couple
running
blocks in
backward,
front of me.
just
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
like
and I'm like, I could see him weaving in and out of other groups of runners, and I'm like, I could still see him, and there'll be, volunteers on the
uh-huh.
side, they know I'm like, "Oh, it's okay, I saw Logan, I waved at him, he's
Yeah.
okay." I'm like, "Thanks." I'm, trailing up behind him, and I'm like, "Man, if I start walking, I'm gonna lose my kid." He
Right?
helped me, not walk, he helped me keep
Yeah.
going,
You
so
were like, "I
it's
cannot walk."
I
That
know,
would
I
be
yeah,
neglect.
yeah, right. I'm just like, it was like, "Oh, wait, we didn't have a finish line plan. My
Right.
husband's there, but I don't even know, where he is," and so now he knows, he could do it. I think we did a Halloween themed, 1 mile, he did a youth run. He's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
"How long
yeah.
is it?" I'm like, 1 mile." He's "Easy.
No
I got
problem.
it. Easy." No, that's when you talk about have, kids and we're like, "Oh, I don't think I could do it anymore, and if I did, how do you transfer that? Or how do you, make it a family thing? Is it even worth it to make a family
Yeah.
thing of hiking?" We haven't hiked together as a family. I
You guys
think it
don't
would
have
be
much close. That's
yeah,
not I used to
at
live in
least not with
Chicago.
yeah,
Chicago's
yeah.
gorgeous, and but it was so funny. So my recently, right when the book came out, so my best friend that I hiked with, Erin, her best friend from college, who has since become my best friend as well, Grace. So there's the three of us. We all went out. I had some book events out in Maine. So I was like perfect. We went to Portland, we did some, and then went up to Katahdin, which is where the book, like the trail ends. So I did a book festival up there, and then we hiked Katahdin. And it is like probably the hardest mountain I've ever hiked. It is very hard. It's a lot of rock scrambling. It takes a long time. It is like an 8 hour like round trip. It's a day. We get us keeps asking us like, "Hey, she's from St. Louis." And she was like, "So what, okay, just tell me what to bring and whatever." And so Aaron and I, we are like preparing. We are like, we have reservations. We because you have to like get a parking pass, do all these things. And she was like, "Oh yeah, just tell me where to show up." And we get to the top and it is hard. And we get to the top and she goes, "This is my first mountain." And we were like, "What? This is the hardest mountain ever. I've climbed so many mountains and this is your first mountain." And she was
Oh,
like,
wow.
"I didn't know what to expect." And we were like, "Don't expect this from now
Yeah,
on." And
right.
it made me realize, I was like, "Oh, you were," because she was born in Milwaukee, lives in St. Louis for the last
Sure,
25
yeah.
years. And yeah, she like, of course
There's not,
you've hiked, but you've not climbed mountains like that.
elevated
Yes,
terrain
where
and
you're
yeah,
like, "Oh my god, I'm like climbing straight up." It was a lot.
yeah.
But yeah, it was just very funny. I was like, "I can't believe you just followed us." She was like, "I figured you knew what you're doing." I was like, "I
You're
thought
right.
you knew what you were doing."
So you thought she had a little more
Yeah,
experience. That
yeah.
would've been nice to know in case something happened, right?
She was just
You're
like,
just
"Oh,
like
you guys are fine."
they were like Yeah, that remind I know, 'cause I can't think of yeah, I mean, we have Starved Rock, around
Yeah,
here, so
Starved
that's,
Rock.
one of the closest things that we
Yeah.
have, and even then, it's, an hour, 2 hour south, west,
Yeah, I was gonna
of the
say, I've
city
never been
or
to,
any
like, retreats there.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I know, speaking of, I'm like, "Oh, maybe that'll get our kids a little outdoorsy things because I think the most outdoors we have a backyard, that's about it, or
Yeah.
playgrounds and stuff. Because even then it's I don't we my husband and I, we're not adventure seekers, we don't it just depends on what your lifestyle is, but I remember, yeah, when we went to celebrate our 10-year in Hawaii, that was one of the things we did was go on a hike we went to hike at Diamond Head, the crater out
Yeah.
there, and but even then, it's, less than half a day, we finished it in a few hours, but it was just it was just yeah, it was steep, and so I think that was, the closest thing when I was reading your book, that was the closest
Mhm.
thing that I could relate it to, and even then, at one point, there were stairs, there was an option for people who,
Yeah.
didn't wanna do, the long scenic
Yeah,
way,
yeah,
you could
yeah.
go up, the quicker way so that and it was really funny because there's, other people doing the same thing, and you just I was eavesdropping on other people, there was just, this middle-aged woman who was she saw, how much further she had to go, she's, "Oh, shit." I was like, "I feel you,
You're
I
like,
know.
"We are here."
I know,
Is this
girl,
and this
I
is
know."
what we're doing for fun, right? This is
Yeah. It was just a quick, "Oh, yeah, let's, spend a half a day doing this," because it was yeah, it was we did touristy stuff, and then we did lazy stuff, and yeah, hiking Diamond Head, that was, one of the it's "No, that's a good experience," and that's,
Yeah,
physically demanding, but it's not all day. So, we were
right.
like, "Oh, we could do it." We could do it.
I
So,
mean,
no,
I
I
never
it was fun.
yeah, I never regret hiking. I always when I get to the view or whatever, I'm like, this is amazing. I'm so lucky to be up here. I'm so happy I did this.
Yeah.
But on my way up anywhere, I'm like, this is the worst. Why do I do this? I hate this so much. Even it's like as much as I have hiked and we've continued to backpack, I still hike and backpack quite a bit. But yeah, I'm like, this is not fun. It's hard. That's what it is. It's
Yeah.
hard.
I was gonna say, yeah, we didn't even have 35 extra pounds of like gear on us at the time, which makes
Yeah.
such a difference. But yeah, I know I remember you saying, oh yeah, you remembered I think you said you lost 20 pounds in the first month or something.
Mm,
I'm like, damn, like that makes a lot of sense because you're just like every day you're doing like on average 15 to 20 miles, like I
yeah.
imagine. And that's just to keep pace, like how much planning, scheduling. I imagine it wasn't like you guys tried your best to be, like, budget friendly, but
Hmm.
I imagine it was still, like, it's not cheap to do that, to live
No.
off of what like, you had plans, but you're also winging it a little
Hmm.
bit, and it's just so wild, like, how many I thought it was so crazy, like, the community up there, and you had, like it was your best friend's sister, right, who had done it before?
Yeah, so we had,
So
like, a
you
little
had
the
an
inside.
idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, little inside scoop, little guidance, what to expect for the most part, and yeah, like, I guess I just didn't realize, but it makes sense now that I think about it. There's a whole community there, there's a whole group of people who just know, like, along the trail, they're like, "Oh, you're doing it for the day, you're doing the whole thing, or
Mhm.
you doing it whatever, you're doing a section," where they're just prepared. They're like, because even in even in this your book, you're like, yeah, I know we hitchhiked. I know about it, but was so common out there. I know what you're thinking, but it's
Yeah.
just what yeah.
It was
Yeah.
just because a lot of those trail towns, when you get it's the same roads, people are, like, out with their thumb out, and I think especially because we were 2 women, we're often had another group of boys with us, but it was
Yeah.
young guys, and so people are so used to seeing that, and they know, "Oh, they're just trying to get into town," and, like, the trail just doesn't run without people like that. It really is
Yeah.
that's what's I think is one of the things that I think is just so amazing, and I've carried that with me of seeing this just kindness of humanity of strangers who are just so willing to go out of their way to help these like young kids on a or even older people, whoever, like people just out
Yeah.
on an adventure and they just are invested in your journey and I think that is one of the coolest aspects of the AT or like any kind of long trail is that it cannot be done totally by yourself. You have to get into towns to get food. You have to be able
Yeah.
to you have to rely on the kindness of strangers and just we saw it in such abundance and I think that is pretty common.
And I can imagine, like, that would help keep your spirits going and keep you motivated because 'cause you're just, like, maybe right when you're reaching the end of your like, your energy or your emotions, like, how much you can handle,
Mhm.
you're running on 2% and then you're reminded of it's the much bigger picture, and there's so many people out there that have your back and they want to see you succeed, and
Yeah.
they're, like, encouraging you. They're like, "No, what do you need? Do you need a ride to the store? Do you need a shower would be great. Do
Yeah.
you need some food?" Stuff like that, where it's just because I think that's so huge where you don't wanna rely on it because you
Mhm.
never know, but then once you get that, you're just like, "Oh, like, thank you." It's just, like, a little bit of weight off of your
Yes. And it
shoulders.
felt like it always came at that time when like you said, like when we needed it the most. Like we found Pennsylvania it's the shit it's the worst state on the AT. Like it is in terms of the Appalachian Trail, it is just so rocky. It's not that scenic. It's
Mm,
just it goes through a lot of like kind of industrial towns and so it just is not a pretty part of the trail and it's
sure.
very hard to hike on because it's like all these huge rocks that you're just always you never feel like you have any like steady footing and when we hiked, it was cold and rainy the whole time. We just never got any views. But in that state was where we met like the beyond kindest people. Like just every place we went, we met people who went out of their way to help us out, to give us a ride, to put us up. Just like we met this guy who like he came and he was like our biggest trail angel. That's what people call like the people who help hikers along the trail and he was just like, listen, whatever you need, I'm going to take you to the grocery. I'm going to slack pack you. I'm going to do all of these things. And just because he loves the community, he loves the AT, it wasn't about us, but it was like, we needed that so much because we were so like just tired by that point and just very our moods were bad. And we just experienced so much kindness in Pennsylvania that I just can't help but like every time I think of it, I'm like, the hiking is horrible,
Yeah.
but not
It made
horrible.
up for
It
it.
made it more than made up for it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I have such like
Yeah.
fond memories of that portion of the trail because of the people we met.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. I think that's yeah, I think that's so awesome. It just reminds me of yeah, just the whole running community when with
Mm,
the marathon. There's not even just the volunteers, but the people who come out to support their friends and their family and they're just there supporting everyone
right?
running. Like it doesn't matter if they don't know you. They're like you'll and then with the Chicago Marathon, you're hitting up like dozens of neighborhoods, at least I
Yeah.
think 15 8 different neighborhoods. So it's really cool to it's all these different walks of life in one city, but they're all like coming together 'cause they're like, the city's pretty much gonna be shut down, like,
Yeah.
and they're just making the best of it, and they're, like, so pumped, and I just remember, like, seeing people, like, with their boom boxes out and hyping you up, and it's just like, "Okay, thank you," because 'cause I'm like, because
Yeah.
you're yeah,
When
like, that's the
somebody
closest
calling your
thing that I
name,
can
like, that is, like,
oh,
the
yeah.
biggest boost of,
Yeah,
"Yeah, go again, you're
absolutely.
doing" Yes, I
Yeah,
needed
there were
that.
a couple people who I didn't they were there who I haven't seen in years, but they were like, "Oh shit, Megan," and I'm like, "Holy shit," and I'm like, "Oh, holy shit, hey!" Or it's like the last turn before the finish line, and I hear where my husband's best friends, he stood up at our wedding, he's like, "Good, that's right!"
Yeah.
He like start just I'm like hearing him through my headphones, and I'm like, God, I'm almost done, and then I'm just, like, laughing my ass off because 'cause I'm
Yeah.
like, "Okay, like, this is what I can feel good about it," and the fact yeah, it's that energy level and just that sense of community where everybody yeah, like I said before, they just wanna see you get to where you need to go, where you're
Yeah,
trying to go,
because they
and they're
know,
not
"Oh, you've put so much work into this, and we
yeah.
really believe in you, we wanna see people succeed," and it's just like that people can have the capacity to want that for strangers, and I had never lived in a small town before I hiked the trail. I just not that I grew up in a huge city, but I had grown up in a city and, like, in the inner city and then lived in Chicago, and, like, I just didn't know what small town America was like, really, and so hiking through it was just like an introduction to like all of
Yeah.
these really kind and beautiful communities. And right now a lot of those, especially in the southeast where I live, they have been like wiped out because from Hurricane Helene. So
Oh,
even though these are
yeah.
places that I walked through one time, I'm still so connected to them, and it is amazing to see hikers from 50 years ago are like flying in to do trail work in these towns and to help the hostels that put hikers up and to help the small businesses that support the town and the people whose
Yeah.
homes were destroyed. But yeah, so just seeing the hiker community come to give back to these
Collective
communities,
experience,
yeah,
yeah.
it's really beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, it's I love that part of it. That was probably, like, one of my favorite parts. Also, yeah, I just I also we gotta talk about how just, like, the camaraderie amongst your group and just how quickly you guys just ended up hiking together.
Yeah.
And when you knew these strangers, obviously you and your best friend, you're like, "No, we made this plan for together." But then the fact that you ended up meeting couples here and there, and then
Mhm.
you'd reunite with them, but then there was a few people who were you guys just stuck with, like, most of the time, just because it worked really well for you
Mhm.
guys, and then I thought that was so cool where you just found lifelong friends and you guys were all in it together even though you did not you weren't like you weren't against it, but you weren't, like, looking for a group of people, right? Like, it
Yeah.
wasn't, like, a goal, it just happened organically, and you guys are all going through this physically and emotionally mentally demanding feat all together, and you guys it just seemed like you meshed well for the most part, and had you were on the same wavelength, which is
Mhm.
crazy to me. Like, I just, like, being because you never know, like, anybody could be a wild card, and it's
Yeah.
just you don't know, and you understand that you might if somebody might feel the same way about you. I don't know these women, I
Mhm.
don't who knows whatever, but everybody's just got a positive attitude, and they're motivated, and I thought that was so cool how you just found, like, your little group, and you guys just stuck with each other, and you made plans, and even I think there was one person that they decided to stop when they
Mm.
were so close because they I think he had to make a deadline or something, or he
He
just
had
couldn't
a
he didn't wanna
girlfriend.
miss something,
He had a girlfriend
and
back at home that he was heart sick over.
y
Yeah.
and you guys were like, "Come on, you're so close." Like,
How could
and
you
it was just
I just remember I felt that emotion through the
Mm,
page too, because like, it wasn't easy for a choice for him to make either, but he was just like the mentality of it, the mental health aspect of it, it was just you can't help but understand. You found love on the trail, who am I talking to? It
right.
was I thought that was so cute, like, during those the little love story, like, the little moments, like, he was like, "Oh, I got this chapstick for you," or something.
I
I was like,
know.
"That is so fucking adorable." I was like, "Get it, Sally. Go, get your man." I was, like, so excited. I was just, like,
I
a little
know.
giddy part of, like, your journey. It was it added to the humanity of it and,
Yeah.
like, the just little pleasant surprises that you found along the way, and I thought it was so fun and funny to get to almost, like, just experiencing through your story, through your words.
Yeah, to see yeah, just to have because now I've been married for 20 years, but, like, that it really was fun to write about and to remember those little feeling that nervous spark and the, "What is this?" and, "Oh, he's I think he likes me, and I think I like him,"
Yeah.
and, oh, all of that was just really fun to write about and really fun to
Mhm.
remember, and can I tell you 2 things about the trap sticks? The very first day I met my now husband on the trail, he had the next day he we were at this hiker festival and he came up to me and he gave me a little thing of chapstick and was like, "Hey, I heard you said you were out, so I just got some at the store for you." And I was like, "Oh yeah, what do I owe you?" And he was like, "Nothing."
He's already in love with
Yeah, he's
you.
like, "Nothing, it's yours." Every year, he in my stocking, he gives me Burt's Bees chapstick
Oh my
and
gosh.
has never been like, "It's because of that chapstick." And honestly, I did not remember and remembered it, but I didn't put the 2 together, and just this last year, he was, like, reading like, a draft of the book, and he was like, I think I described it as Carmex, and he was like, "No, it was Burt's Bees," and I was like, "Was it? Oh, I forgot," and he was like, "Why do you think I give
Oh,
you Burt's Bees every year?" And I was like,
oh.
"Oh, I just thought you did it. I didn't know why." And so he's been doing this romantic gesture every year for 20 years, and I
Oh my
didn't
god.
get it. And then the day the book came out, I got up and took my son to school, and then my husband had left for work by the time I got back, and I came home, and there was a little thing of Carmex on my pillow, and I was like,
Oh,
"Still got it."
I know, he's
It's
so oh, that is so
that's
adorable.
sweet.
It's so thoughtful, even, like, the simplest little thing, and you're just like it's just there's so, like, deeper layers to it,
Yes.
and God, that is so adorable.
I
Little
know.
love story represented by Burt's Bees. He's
I
just like,
know, sponsor
"Why do
me.
you" like, you he was just like, "What, you thought I was just going to Walgreens and picking out random shit?" Like
I legit was just like, "Oh, it's like his tradition." I don't he knows I like it, but I was like, I have so many tubes of Burt's Bees, and I was like, "Why do you keep giving it to me?" Because I have so many, and I just did not I just never put it together, and it was so fun. I was like, "Oh my god, you've been
that is so
romantic this
sweet.
whole time."
Yeah,
I just didn't even
you
know.
got 20 years of, like, romanticism to, like, react to now. He's
I
like
know.
you're like, "Shit, honey, I gotta catch
I was
up.
like,
I'm
"I'm
so
sorry," and you
sorry."
never said anything. I'm like, "If I did something thoughtful like that, I would make sure you knew." And I would be
Yeah,
like, "Did you see this thing I did?
yeah.
Do you remember why I did that?" You know what I mean? I'm like, I would be so obvious about it, but he was just, like, real low key, never mentioned it. Just was like, "Yeah, I
It's
got it."
gotta be, like, little slick. Oh my god, that's adorable.
So
That's so
cute. I
funny. But
know.
I imagine you're kinda, like, used to him kinda like that, like, not making too much of a big deal out of gestures like
Yeah,
that. It was
he's
just,
just
like, a simple
very
thing for him, and
mhm.
where you where you would have been like, "Hey, so did you notice anything?" Like
"Did you see what I did here?
yeah.
I would like a pat on the back, please."
Yeah. Oh, I know. That was so fun. That's adorable. I love that. I love that 20 years strong. I
Mhm.
know it's like Burt's Bee he's keeping Burt's Bees in business.
Seriously, hit me up.
I
I have
love
very unchapped lips
there you
due to
go.
you.
I know, it's so funny because it is such a simple thing where it's like, oh god, I can imagine if you're used to just having chapstick all the time and you're hiking for 4 or 5 months, and you're like, that's one thing that you wouldn't be able to ignore. You're like, "I need my
Yeah.
fucking chapstick.
Like,
I
you know
need"
that feeling where you're like I will have it where if I have chapped lips or something, I will wake up in the middle of the night and be, like, searching for it. And I'm like, yeah, it was like that, where it was, like, just the one thing that we had of any kind of beauty routine, not even that, but self-care, like
Yeah,
hygiene and that, and I was like,
yeah,
"And I'm finally out of it, and now I need some more." And yeah, and just that he had
yeah.
heard me say it and then thought as a 23-year-old boy, like, heard somebody make an
Yeah,
offhand comment and then thought about them the next day. I should
that
That's how
is
I should have known he
he
was a good
fell for
one.
you. He fell for you right away, and he never got back up. That was like and here you are like, "Oh, this is sweet," and then
Yeah.
you're like, "No, girl, he's got it bad for you." Like, what do the kids say? "Down bad."
Yeah, I'm like, "I
That's
wonder what
what
this means."
yeah. You're like, "Oh, he's so
He's
nice. He's so
nice.
nice." So he found the chapstick. He got it for you.
Found the
That's
chapstick.
amazing. I love that. So let's see here. I'm gonna throw this two-parter at you.
Okay.
What were the most challenging parts to write? What were the most enjoyable parts to write?
So I think the most challenging part was trying to write about my relationship that I had with the boyfriend that I went on the trail with, and to make sure that I really was honest about that and
Mm,
also
mhm.
fair to him
Yeah,
because A, he didn't ask to be written about, and it's like I was seeing things from my lens, and
yeah,
obviously his experience, I'm sure, was very different. And so I just wanted to make sure that I was like kind and fair and but also like honest about my how my actions and his actions and all of that. So that was very hard, but also I think very rewarding. And then the most fun is like any hijinks with Erin, like any of the just her poop stories and all of the ridiculousness between she and I. Those were like the most fun to write because I have such one we're still we talk every day, we're best friends. So I have such a sense of her. We've known each other since we were 12. Like we are like sisters, and also like I know her like more than anyone else I know. She's like one of the most important relationships in my life. So I loved like bringing back and just really depicting her in the way that like I know her and how silly she
yeah.
is and how like fun she is. And so that was those were like the fun parts for sure.
I could see that where it brings you back, and then you're like, Sorry, not sorry. I'm gonna tell her how I'm gonna tell these people how you were like, I'm gonna shit bricks or my
Yeah.
asshole's on fire."
And but here's the thing about her is that she is like, she's one of those people that is I like, she will laugh at herself and is, "Yes, let's tell that story." Like, I didn't even think, "Do you mind if I tell these embarrassing things?"
Yeah,
Because I
you
knew
knew she'd be cool with
she
it.
would be, like, the first person to tell the story
Yeah.
and
"Wait,
loves
why didn't you tell them about this?"
why did what? Yeah, she is just, like, that confident and cool that she's, "Yeah, I don't care if I look like a fool, that's funny." And she is
Yeah.
always in it for the bit and the laugh, and so I knew she would be fine with it.
That's probably, like, why you guys mesh so well and that friendship, even though, like, you guys grow up, we all grow up, right?
Mhm.
Like, we're still ourselves, we just learn how to deal with the world as we go along, and I love that because yeah, I have a couple of best friends who I've known since 12 or one 12 and one 14, and it's just we've gotten into it where we didn't even speak to each other for a couple
Mhm.
weeks, but then we find our way back to each other, and
Yeah.
even now it's I feel so comfortable. I'm like, "I'm not gonna speak for my husband, but I didn't like how you did this," or whatever. It was like but we could just be honest with each other. I'm like, we're even if we're, like, in the middle of a fight, and I'm like, I'm sorry I came off that way." And it's
Yeah,
just, like,
yeah.
the maturity and just, like, meshing well, and I think I could tell because just your energies continue to mesh. I
Yeah.
love that. I love, like, that just, like, the love and just I imagine that there was after that experience that you guys shared, there was no going back. There was
Oh.
it was like
Like, we were already, like, super tight and but that, like, that has for us even we were and I'm some people are like, "Did you guys fight? Did what?" I'm like, we had a strong core, and I think the fact that we had each other out there I certainly relied on her a lot, especially in the beginning, and she relied on me towards the end, and I think that having that central relationship as we're, like, on this like very turbulent and like very uncomfortable and you're never in the same place like having all of that at least we had that kind of core comfort of each other
yeah,
where everything else was always changing we were at least together so I think that it like that relationship just even solidified more yeah I feel so lucky
yeah,
to have experienced that with her and I feel so lucky to have experienced that like have my husband have been on that
yeah.
experience because that is just such like a
Oh,
cool thing we
yeah.
share.
Like, there yeah, that's if you had to test any sort of compatibility
Yeah,
or
oh, yeah,
long
yeah, no, very quickly.
yeah, or that's one way to decide if your potential life mate is up to snuff. It's
Take
to
them out
go
on the
through that
trail. Yes.
together. Yeah.
I that is my 100% fail proof method is yes, because you're like I always describe it as you are too worn down mentally, emotionally to be anything but 100% yourself. So there is no I'm trying to be this person you want I that I think you want me to be, which I think is very certainly something I did more when I was younger. When I just didn't know
Sure.
myself. When I so I was like, of course, babe, I like hockey. Like I very much was like for boyfriends, I would change my personality of what I liked
Yeah,
for different people. And
yeah,
there just wasn't any of that on the trail. And the fact that I was like stripped down bare and like he was as well. And that we still were like, you're amazing. And I think
yeah,
that's why we formed these like amazing friendships on the trail because
yeah,
you're in this intense experience together and you are like being real and you are having to
yeah.
rely on these people and that just bonds people like I don't know what else could bond people that quickly. I mean, just having an intense experience, not that you have to go hike.
For even then, I'm like, yeah, hiking the Appalachian Trail, it's like 2,200 miles long, and you're traveling even just 1,000 miles for 3 months or 2.5
Mhm.
months with these people. That yeah, absolutely, it's gonna be like, "No, there's no facade here." Like,
No,
we're all, like, down. This is all of our energy is going towards one step ahead of the other and not losing our fucking minds. We're not worried about making sure that I'm not offending you. It's and I liked how you also included just the vibe of, yeah, sometimes you just let people go ahead of you,
mhm.
knowing that, okay, this rest point or shelter or
Yeah,
whatever you guys call it will everybody's, like, understanding. Yeah, don't feel like you need to slow down for me. Don't feel
yeah,
like you or don't feel like you need to pick up the pace for me. We all know where these points are,
mhm.
and it was just so understanding, and I thought that was, like, so cool, and just, like, for everybody to be so many different walks of life to be on the same wavelength, I thought it was
Yeah,
amazing, and just so yeah, and I guess, yeah, that's, like, super comforting to know that, no, which is what you get because it's at the end of the day, like, all of our energy is going to this one thing,
yeah, like,
and
I'm
that's
just trying
the
it together
collective yeah,
and
the
put
collective
one foot
mentality.
in front of the other,
They
and
all get it.
mhm,
Everyone, in your group gets it.
yeah,
Absolutely,
yeah,
because 'cause
and that
they're all struggling the same way.
and, like, I think that certainly we met people out there that we didn't end up hiking long distances with, and that's because we it was probably the energy was off both for them and for us, and so I think the people we ended up with for long periods of time were the people who they were, like, invested in hiking, and so they were serious about hiking, but they also wanted to have fun and didn't take
Yeah,
themselves too seriously and were, "This is a fun adventure that we're privileged to have," not like, "We're not out here changing the world," you know? We're
yeah.
just we are kids who were able to like it's a privilege to be able to hike and take that much time off. And
Oh,
I think that we were all pretty aware of that. And just, yeah, we all had the same idea about what we wanted this experience to be. And that really just, I'm still friends with those people. Like we
I
just,
can imagine you can't be, like, didn't a bunch of them come to your wedding, or you guys came to someone else's wedding?
we've been
Yeah,
to each other's weddings. A friend that we met on the trail married my husband and I. We were just out there with him and his wife and their kids. Our kids are friends now. This summer, we just
that's
spent a week with them
amazing.
this summer. So yeah, we're all still pretty tight. And it's like we pick up right where we left off every time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, because I feel there's also a saying. This is the closest thing I have to experience, relate to. But yeah, it's just I've heard this saying like, "Oh, the friendships you make in college are the
Mm.
ones that kind of last the longest." And I'm like, that makes so much sense because I think just like at the age that you're at, like your early to mid
Hmm.
20s, and just you're still growing up, but you're yeah coming of age. You're discovering yourself and you're figuring things out, but you're everybody else is too. And it's yeah, there's a group of us that were all we still like we meet for Friendsgiving every year. We still
Yeah.
plan it. We've got the text thread of all of us. Last year we did one of them has a cabin up in Wisconsin. And so it's a really fun way to get together, do adult trips or do family trips with camping or whatever.
Hmm.
And I remember last year, one of us in our groups, she was turning 40, and then can we do a girls trip of just doing nothing all weekend surrounded by nature? We're like, yeah, cabin. Yeah, perfect. Like
Yes.
we just straight up, yeah, we had our entertainment, we had our potluck, we had
Hmm.
everything we needed. And it was just really so funny because we're like, let's find an excuse to do this again. Cause it was just like, it's, so yeah, I can like totally appreciate those long those, like, long-lasting
Yeah.
friendships and just even just from not necessarily I don't know if it's just from the trials that you guys went through, but I think also just, like, the age group
Mhm.
where you guys are just, like, you're in the right mental space and you it's just a collective understanding. And even
Yeah.
if anything, even if there's any rockiness going on, somehow it just all gets smoothed over because at
Mhm.
the end of the day, we're like, "No, we all love each other, like, we're mature adults now, like, I feel comfortable saying, "Oh, no, like, why are we doing this? I'm not
Mhm.
cool with that," or, "Is it okay?" Even then, I think I'm just the kind of person who goes with the flow for the most part, but I think we just all know each other so well, and
Mm.
we're just, like, we're used to each other by now. It's just whatever, like, we don't
Yeah.
even think about it.
And you know that your relationships aren't fragile. So you're not
Mm-mm.
worried about offending somebody. And if you do
Oh,
offend
yeah.
somebody, you know that you can come back from it because you've offended
It's
them
yeah,
before. And I think there is just
yeah.
something really amazing about people who have known you at different phases of your life.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
I love that the people I hiked with still see me as that badass 25-year-old audacious girl, and I see them the same
Mhm.
way of these like wonders. And we were all these like, we all had these like big ideas, and like we have kept each other, in that place, and still see each other as these cool, amazing, like people who are adventurous, even though we're like,
You're like, "Shit, we're in our
I
40s now."
know.
Like, I gotta remind
We're
ourselves,
still
like,
cool.
what
But that's what is it's like there is just something about I have the same with my college girlfriends, just as you shared an experience where you were like on your own for the first time and like having this intense thing, and like those people that you met and who saw you through that and saw you like make some of your like worst
Oh,
mistakes,
yeah.
and like also are there to cheer you on. So
Yeah.
that's like very special.
Oh, 100%. I know it's like sometimes it's like it's easy to take it for granted
Mm.
until you're reminded again. You're like, "Oh, like I wouldn't trade these people for the world." And
Yeah.
even like the negative experiences too, like I appreciate that point where it's
Hmm.
this was not our proudest moment, not my proudest moment, but like the fact that we're still going strong, we're past it, and we're now like moving on to a new part in our friendship, like where
Yeah.
we're yeah, we all have families, we all have lives, like, we all have kids, like, the group that I'm thinking of, like, we all have kids, but it's just really funny because 'cause we're, like even when a few of us were just starting to have kids,
Hmm.
and now it's I don't know, there's 15 kids now amongst our
Yeah.
group, and it's so funny because 'cause we're like, this shit's gonna get crazy in a few years." If it's not already crazy now, like, we're just gonna see them running around crazy because we try to do either Halloween, like, pumpkin
Mm.
painting, and we get together for Friendsgiving, and we try to still make sure that we support each other, whatever's going on, whatever happens, and like I said, we got the text thread, it's
Yeah.
the group thread that you got going on for, like, when either even if we're not planning anything, we're just
Mhm.
like, "Oh," like, even the one you've probably heard a bunch of notifications, we're talking about Halloween costumes. We're
Yeah.
like, "What's everybody's kids gonna be? What's everybody gonna be this year?" And so it's just like shit like that, and I love that that's just something that's like a lot of your stories reminded like within your book reminded me of just that like camaraderie and that support
Yeah.
and the crazy you didn't even see it coming where you develop just like lifelong friendships from this
Right.
crazy endeavor that you guys all collectively decided to do
Yeah.
at the same time in your life.
Like,
Like,
just the fate of it all. Yeah.
yeah, I love it. I love it. That's amazing. So I'm gonna throw this at you. What okay, what advice do you have for first time AT hikers?
Mm. I would say prepare yourself as much as you can, but at some point, I think there are people who get so overly prepared. Like I think that hiking is a lot like writing or doing anything else. The only way to do it is to do it. And so get out there. If you really want to go for it, just set a date and do it. And I think that is it's just walking. It's just walking. Get your equipment, get the right equipment, but you don't have to have the fanciest equipment. You don't have to have
Sure.
you don't have to be able to hike 20 miles from the get go. Just have a base level of like fitness and then go do it and along the way. And I think that is one of those things that I hear so many people being like, "Oh, I would love to do that someday. I'd love to do it." And I'm just like, "Go do it." Because it is so hard to take the time. And if you have the time, if you have the will, just go do it. You will never regret it. You'll never regret like taking the adventure and taking the risk and going and just taking a leap. And I think it is worth it. I think it's an
Yeah.
amazing experience.
Gosh, can you imagine where you'd be if you never did that?
My mom
Like, your face was perfect. You're like, "No." Like, I
No, I can't. At this point, I can't. I My mom always said, she was like, the boyfriend that I started the trail with, we were very serious. We were planning to get married, and he is like a really nice person and has a beautiful family now, and I was not the right person for him and he was not the right person for me, but we didn't know that cuz we were college sweethearts. And I think we probably would have gotten married and then we probably would have gotten divorced. And my mom always said, she was like, I really loved him, but I always knew if you stayed with him that you probably wouldn't have a lasting marriage. And I was like,
Mm.
why didn't you tell me that? She's like, because you couldn't tell you shit. You were 20.
No,
You weren't
she's
going to listen
like,
to me.
"That would have" yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, you know what?
She's like
You are right.
she like, "You would have responded accordingly."
Oh,
You would
I
have been
would have,
like,
yeah,
"No,
doubled
mom."
down. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh god, that's so important. Yeah, because you did I really appreciated you were authentic and you were fair and you were real about that
Mhm.
experience with him and a little internal struggle you had about and you could tell he was like he noticed it too.
Mhm.
Like he wasn't just like being blissful ignorance about
Right.
it. He was like he was picking up on things too and it was yeah, like I totally get it. I think
Mhm.
so many of us can relate to that where it was right for it was like for now. It
Yeah.
was right
Yeah.
it was right for right then, and you appreciate the time because 'cause I'm thinking of, like, yeah, my college boyfriend.
Mhm.
It ended spectacularly horrible,
Of
but it
course,
was
as
just
they
like
all
that.
do. It went up in a flame.
I was like, par for the course,
Yeah.
check that off the, coming of age list.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was like it's still that experience I wouldn't trade for the world because
No.
I got so many I grew so much from that relationship, and it's just now that I'm like when I met my husband at the time, it helped me recognize, oh, like, not necessarily the grass is greener, but it was just like, you have a better perspective of it. You're like, "No, this is what maybe I need or what I should be looking for myself."
I was like, "Oh, this is it." That was like it was so clear to me when I met my husband. I was like, "Oh, this is a different feeling and ease and comfort, and this is what a relationship is should be like." And I
Yeah.
think I had always in the past just liked people who liked me. It's just like, "Oh, you like me? Okay." So I never really
Yeah.
I dated very nice guys, but it just wasn't like, "Oh, I'm dating you because I feel passionately about you." It was like, "I'm dating you because you asked me out." And then now
Yeah.
we're still together and
Or like, "You're hot
yeah,
and
and
the fun times are great."
like we you like to drink beer and I like to drink beer
Yeah.
and you like pizza, I like pizza. It was like
Right.
very surface level,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
meeting my husband was like a revelation, which is sounds so, but just in that I had never thought about, "Oh, what do you want in a person?"
Yeah.
Just
The man that you met, I just remember one of the scenes that stuck out to me was you saw a moose and you started crying, and he was just like, "Yeah, it was weird," but he just accepted it. He
yeah,
rolled with it. He wasn't like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" He was just like, "Yeah, okay." Like,
yeah, and
you need a minute." Like, he was just yeah,
he's been doing that the
like
rest of our whole lives. Just been like, "Oh, you're crying? Okay." Cool, 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 cool.
he's like, "Was it because of me?
Yeah.
No?
Nope.
Okay,
Okay.
carry on.
Go
Do you
on.
need anything from
Yeah.
me? Alright."
You here for
I
this?
I
Nope. Okay, great.
Oh, I love it. We love a man who just recognizes his role, his
Mhm.
place, and he's, "I'm here for you," or, "What do you need? Do you need me a shoulder to cry on, or do you just want me to leave you the fuck
Yeah.
alone?" It just yeah, yeah, I
Mhm.
love it. I love that. I just love that. A little bit of love stories squeezed in there, and it was fun to see it flourish, and
Yeah.
you were like I imagine at the time, you didn't realize, like, how just important how much of an impact that relationship was going to develop until,
No.
got you almost reached the top.
Yeah, I really was like, if he wouldn't have been willing to move to I was starting law school, so if he wouldn't have said, "I wanna move with you," I think I would have never moved for him. I was just at
Yeah,
that point in
yeah,
my life where I was like, "I will not do anything for a man." You know what I mean? I am not
yeah,
gonna change myself for anything. And the fact that he was willing to, like, take a chance on this brand new relationship with somebody who he had known for weeks was, like, pretty amazing and pretty, like, amazing even, like, knowing him, he's not, like, a big, huge risk taker. He just does
sure,
he's somebody who, like, he knows what he knows and he is like quietly confident about things, and he just convinced me that yeah, I think we should try this. And so he moved to the city I was going to law school with, and then I was like, "I don't know. I have friends and I don't want to entertain
Yeah.
you." And he was like, "You don't have to entertain me." And I was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
okay."
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
it seemed like you guys he was on the same page, like,
Yeah.
anything that you were worried about, he's, no, I know." He
Yeah,
was
yeah,
like
yeah. Just and
yeah,
still that's still how our relationship is that he'll be like,
yeah.
I know." He knows
Seems
me
like you
because
complement each other really well because you seem like very much like just really I don't wanna make any assumptions about comedians, but it's just, okay, outgoing and you're like, "No, let's fucking do this," and
yeah.
it's just like he's just, Alright, let's do it, honey."
Uh-huh.
Like,
Yeah,
he
he's
just yeah, like, chill, cool, hot
he's a
guy.
cool
Yeah. I love that,
Yeah.
I love that. It's like he's still got that nickname, I imagine,
Oh,
20 years
yeah.
later,
Yeah, it was
the
in our
inside
wedding
joke.
vows.
Yeah. With the Burt's Bees or
Mhm.
no, was it was a Carmex back then?
But yeah, when I'm like, it was
Yeah, you
Carmex.
still
He was
thought it
like,
was
"No."
honey,
Why do you
it's
think
like
I've
you
been
don't
giving
know
it to
anything
you? Yeah.
about me anymore. Like
Oh.
I know, I would joke about my husband like that. "You don't even know me anymore." I think I was, like, teasing him, like, the other day, we had a random weeknight without the kids, and where he's, "You wanna go out to dinner? Yeah, let's go somewhere." Like, yeah,
Yes.
'cause I think my kid, like, our older one had a random 5-day weekend. It was
Mhm.
so weird and random, and so, like, usually the younger one, because he's in preschool, but not full time, so he'll be at my mother-in-law's, and we're like, "Okay, the older one has school off,
Yeah.
take them both." And so we're like, "Oh, we have a random evening because they're not gonna come back for or we don't have to get them for another hour or so." And so we're like, "Yeah, let's go out." And it was really funny because I was like, "Honey, can I go to the bookstore? Can you take me to the bookstore real quick before we get going?" He was like, "No, honey, we gotta go. We gotta go get the kids." And then I was just like, "You don't love
You
me
don't even
anymore."
love me. You won't take me you
Like,
would abandon our children and take me to the
I know.
bookstore?
Exactly. The kids can wait. Like,
You do not
Nancy,
need more books.
it that pretty much.
Yeah.
He's, "No, honey, trust me, you're fine. You are fine."
You
But
have
if I
snack.
walk past I seriously, I walk past the bookstore and I'm like, "Ooh."
Gotta go
It's like one of those
in.
running jokes. It's like your reading list, your to be read pile is, like, staring at you
Uh-huh.
while you're thinking about what you wanna buy next. It's yeah,
I
it's like I
know.
know because being an ARC reader, it's I wanna keep up with these opportunities, but then it's being a part of the book community, I'm also, like, getting all these, like, good recommendations. I'm like, "Oh, shit,
Yeah.
like, how am I gonna schedule my leisure reads and this stuff that I do?"
Yeah.
So, yeah, so that's what was like reading yours. It was like I get excited when it's like a book that I'm like I just get so much enjoyment and yeah, I didn't know what to expect because I was like, "Oh, it's like a memoir about her hiking."
Yeah.
But then once I got into it, I was like, I could tell your talent for storytelling just, like,
Thank
came
you.
in, kept me entertained, kept me invested. Like I said, I was like, "Oh my god, they're almost done." I was like, "They're gonna do it. They're almost there." I was like, "Come on,
We're
girls, you
gonna
could
make it,
do it." And
kids.
yeah, it's just every chapter, "Oh shit, they got, like, less than 50 miles left."
Yeah.
Like, they're which is crazy to think because like, you started off at what, 2,200,
Yeah.
and then even through you're like, "Oh god, you traveled 1,000, but you still got 1,000 to go." And
Yeah.
it's to me, that just is so daunting and it could be discouraging, but at the same time encouraging, like, motivational. Like, "I've already made it this far." That y
And at some
keep going.
point, there was that, like, tension at the last maybe 3 weeks or 2 weeks where you're like, "I cannot wait for this to be over. I'm tired, I'm ready for this to be done, and I also never want this to end." And I think that's probably like the high school, like, feeling where you wanna graduate, but you also don't wanna leave, and so that, like, tension of that and yeah, in the end, it just went so quickly. But yeah, it was there were times when you like look, you're like, oh, we did so much. I remember being at 300 miles and being like, that is so much. And
It
then looking
is.
at the map of the trail and being like,
Yeah.
oh my God, that is nothing.
I know, it's kinda like because you wanna keep track, but then it's like, "Oh god, is this doing more harm than good?" Looking at the map
Yeah, yeah,
or
yeah.
keeping track of the mileage and stuff like that. Because 'Cause I'm even thinking I don't know, I don't mind walking anywhere, like,
Mm,
as long as I'm a slow walker, but I don't mind walking because 'cause I'm like, "Okay, give me my headphones." I've
yeah.
got either, audiobook, podcast, or music. And even in 2003, 2004, you had kinda some technology, but very limited. Because I remember you were saying how you had some playlists that you were reading or
We
listening
had
to.
we had Walkmans. We had
Yeah.
well, those are for you young people, those are cassette tapes. That
Yeah.
was what and Aaron, my best friend's brother made us all these mixtapes, and he has always had the coolest taste in music. And so
Okay.
he made us all these cool mixtapes that would have both music and then sometimes like a David Sedaris story or like Mitch Hedberg jokes or like crank
Yeah.
yankers. And so you would get this like real weird mix. And so we usually carried 3 or 4 with us and we would trade them back. And there
Yeah.
was like the times when we would have to like rewind them with a pencil. Yeah. And we had like armband radio, like those little radios, but they hardly ever picked up a signal. But every once in a while you could listen to a radio station. But that was, yeah, about it. It was a lot of
God,
thinking.
oh, yeah, that was another thing that you said, like, I know like I said, I was gonna be jumping all over the place. That was another thing you said was because like, there's hardly the reception was unreliable. Like,
Mhm.
I can't God, I don't know if I would ever get used to that. I don't
Yeah.
like,
Now I
just
don't know that I could.
unpredictable weather, unpredictable reception, like,
Yeah.
just
We just didn't know better. So, like,
yeah,
now you can get reception most places and people are
yeah,
much it's just a very different, like, technological experience hiking the
yeah,
trail. Like, people are out there with selfie sticks vlogging their
yeah,
trail experience. When we were, like, having to town to people on the payphone. So,
yeah,
I think it is
yeah.
just yeah, it is like a world different experience. There's still but it's funny because then a lot of stuff's the same. It's still hiking. You're still dirty. You're still
Yeah, different resources,
yes.
yeah. Yeah, that's so funny. I can yeah, because 'cause you're just like, what are you gonna do, like, with a selfie stick now? It's just, do you have the energy to even if you were to do that now, even if
No.
as a 25-year-old now, would you had the mental capacity to be like, "Oh, shit, I gotta do my vlog entry for the day." Like
No, I just put out a book and I like when I tell you that the struggle to like my publicist, you have to post. And I'm like, I don't wanna post on social
yeah.
media. Like it's
Yeah.
not and the struggle to do it is it's
Yeah.
hard. It is hard. And I
Yeah.
can't imagine like being doing that while hiking. I would
I
not. I don't
know.
have that skill.
Even now, it's like I don't even hike, and even me trying to keep up with the daily, just I have no limits to content. Like at the end of the day,
Mhm.
I can pull content, whatever, but it's just like taking a moment out of your day to curate it.
Yeah.
And it's like some of these people, they have that's just what they do. And I have a regular 9 to 5. I have a small family, and so I'm just like, even sometimes I'm like I'm kind of a lurker, and I'm like, oh shit, I gotta post something.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
you
like,
just
how
like
long has it
don't.
been since I've done that? Yeah.
Sally Chaffin Brooks, what is next for you? Are you working on anything that you could talk about?
I am like in the beginning phases of working on, I have a couple of book projects that I'm working on. One is about my stand-up career and the in-betweenish where I am not famous, but I was a working comic for a long time and kind of a lot of stories from the road. So that's something that I'm working on. And then I'm also working on a fiction book that is based on the time that I lived in Chicago with my mom. So my mom,
Oh,
who is just like was a very like a character when I was
yeah.
like 23 was like, I'm going to move to Chicago with you. And I was like, what? I'm sorry. I just graduated from college and you're going to move to this city right up the street with me. And then it's just, she, of course, she was just like always got into some kind of like hijinks. And she basically, the story is that she got run out of town by the mob, we think, in the middle of the night. So that it's like something very loosely based on that. But yeah, so those are
Oh
my
my
two
goodness.
like book projects right now, but I don't have anything that is, hey, this is going to come out next. I did a couple like big, like I put out an album, a comedy album, and then the book stuff. And so I'm just honestly just trying to like take a little bit of a break after this.
I've earned it. Do you
Yeah.
go on like tour or anything, or do you still do like shows
Hmm.
or open mic or anything like that?
Yeah, I do. So I didn't tour last year because I before was like a 45 week a year on the road person, and then I had a kid and lived in New York and did a lot of comedy there. Now I live in Atlanta, which has a great comedy scene, but I still do travel to do comedy occasionally. And I took last year off basically to work on the book and to get the book out.
Mhm.
And I think next year I'll probably get back on the road a bit, but yeah, I perform around Atlanta a lot and then occasionally other places.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. I know, I mean, I was gonna say, you ever find your way back to your old stomping grounds? That'd
Yeah.
be or if you do any events there, I'll keep an eye out for you because I think that'd
Yeah.
be like, I'd be interested to see where, like, that other side of you, like, pops out, or how your original stuff shines.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Sally Chaffin Brooks, where can we find you online and on social media?
You can find me, I'm everywhere. No, I
Mhm.
am. So my website, sallychaffinbrooks.com, it has all the links to all the things. And then I'm mostly on Instagram and TikTok, and those are both at the Sally Brooks. And then I also have a podcast, which if you like listening to podcasts, which if you're listening to this, I assume you do, I do it with another comedian, and it's called The Ridiculist. And we just find silly listicles from the internet and then riff on them. So it's just like a fun, quick hour of silliness.
Oh, that sounds so funny. That's not yeah, I definitely have to I'll include links on all that in
Awesome.
the show notes because that does sound so yeah. I think I did notice that you were doing a podcast with your friend, and I thought that was so funny that because I was like, just any comedians or like any witty or like how you know how to tell a story, you know how to
Yeah.
work up and engage a crowd. You can't go wrong. So I
Yeah.
was like, I'll make sure to include all that good stuff in this episode so that people know where to find you. Sally Chaffin Brooks, Going to Maine, All the Ways to Fall on the Appalachian Trail. Thank you so much. Like I said, I recommend this book. It's a nonfiction, but I recommend this book for anybody who's crazy like you or even
Yeah.
pushing themselves to the limit, who can relate to the sense of community that just a unique sense of community that those types of activities or experiences can provide. And it's just like I said, yeah, I agree with you. It's a beach read. So it's an
Mhm.
easy read, it's entertaining, and like and whenever if and when you're releasing your other works, feel free to come back. I'd love to chat again.
Thank you so much. This was so fun. I appreciate it.
And there you go. That was Sally Chaffin Brooks talking about her book, Going to Maine, All the Ways to Fall on the Appalachian Trail. That book is available now. Go ahead and check out the show notes where you can find links to purchase the book and where to find Sally online and on social media. While you're browsing social media and finding your favorite authors and their titles, please go ahead and find Cantina Book Club as well and give me a like and a follow, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you want to check out episodes on YouTube, I'm posting those as well. TikTok, you can find clips just in case you're not sure what kind of episode you want to listen to. I've got interview clips there. If you need book recommendations, my book reviews can be found at cantinabookclub.com. And if you are finding books that you like, please, if you can, go ahead and hop on over to Goodreads and Amazon and drop a rating and a review for these authors and their titles. It really does help them out for sure, more than you guys would even realize. And as always, thank you guys so much for listening.